The opinions expressed on this program represent the viewpoints of individual authors or contributors and do not necessarily reflect those of Troy University. This is Alabama Politics with Steve Flowers, an in-depth interview with Alabama's top political newsmakers. Now, from the studios of Troy University, here is Steve Flowers.
I'm Steve Flowers, and welcome to Alabama Politics. Folks, are fortunate tonight to have as, I guess, one of my best friends in the Alabama legislature, a sterling, gregarious, outstanding legislator named David Faulkner from Birmingham. And he's been a leader in the legislature since day one, since he got there. I think this is David's third term or second term?
It's my third term.
Third term in the House now. He represents some of the silk stocking areas of Birmingham, around Mountain Brook and Homewood, some of those areas up there. But he's a regular guy. He's not a silk stockinger. He's a good boy. Good young man. David, good to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Good to be with you. This is fun.
David was born and raised in Birmingham, there in Mountain Brook, and he is with a top law firm there. He's one of the top lawyers in the state. And where'd you go to undergraduate school?
I went to the University of Alabama.
I did too, yeah. Long time
followed
ago.
my parents, my sisters, and even my grandfather.
Did you go to Alabama Law School too?
I sure did. I took a year off after undergrad and went to Washington, D.C. and worked up there for a year.
Who'd you work with?
You know, I had interned previously with Senator Howell Heflin, and then I came back that year and I worked with some law firms, and then ended up working with the Republican National Convention, planning the convention in 1992. I
loved Heflin. Heflin loved to call me Tree. He said Trey, but he pronounced it Trey. I was talking to Steve Rabia. Was Rabia AA when you went up there working for him?
I believe
House was.
He was up there, and Gordon Martin.
Yeah.
Was
Gordon
up,
was. That's right.
That's right. Yeah.
I spoke to Gordon's Rotary Club not long ago.
Okay.
That Birmingham Rotary Club. He was president.
Well, believe it or not, I play. Yes, he is, and I believe it or not, I play pickleball with Gordon about twice a week.
He's the youngest looking guy I was on his age.
He's in great shape.
He really is.
he's going to love this.
I said, Gordon, how old are you? He said, whatever he was. He's like about 40 years old.
That's right.
He's real thin and everything.
He is. In good shape.
David, so now you married a Birmingham girl?
No. My wife is from Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Did y'all meet in school, though?
We did not. We did not meet in school. She did go to the University of Alabama, was a year behind me. But we did not know each other.
Didn't know each other then?
No. We ended up meeting my third year of law school at a down at Mardi Gras.
Was she in law school?
No.
She's from Lake Charles, though.
That's right, Lake Charles, Louisiana, and she was working for Tulane in New Orleans when we met.
Now, how many children do y'all have?
We have 3 kids. Yeah.
How old are they?
I have my oldest son, David, just turned 26. Came off my health insurance.
David, you like you about 26 years old. You got a son 26 years old?
Well, it's gray hair gets me, Steve. But yeah, David's 26. Then I have Wilson, who's 24. And then my daughter, Elizabeth, is 19.
I didn't know your children were that age.
Yes, sir.
Doggone. And you're best friends with our best friend, Jabbo Wagner.
Yes, I call him my dad. He's my legislative dad, and I've learned so much from him. As I said in your book that you wrote with Jabbo, I learned so much from him, and he's been so good to me. He's taught me so much about how to be a good legislator and about public service, and I'm indebted to him.
He loves you better than anybody in the legislature. You got a lot of good friends, but he likes you a lot like I do. So, David, any of your children go to law school?
No, none of my children have an interest in really getting into politics or in the law. And I guess that's just the way it worked out. But I'm really proud of them. The 2 boys are out in the working world now, and getting a little bit off my payroll, which is good. And then one of them's married. Just got married, in fact.
The 27 or the 24-year-old?
To a 24-year-old. Yep. And daughter and my baby is gone to college. So
is she at Alabama?
She is at Ole Miss. Yeah.
Now your wife was from Louisiana, but went to Alabama undergraduate school.
That's correct. She sure did. At the last minute, she changed and went to Alabama instead of going to Tulane.
What committees now do you own in the House?
So I'm vice chair of the Rules Committee. Love serving in that capacity with Joe Lovren, who's the chairman. I am on Judiciary, which I've been on
Because you're a lawyer.
Since I arrived in the House. I've been on Insurance. I'm on Insurance Committee, and I am also on the Budget Committee.
Are those the same committees you've always been on?
So last term, I was on those same committees, but my first term, I was not on Rules or Budget.
I remember the first time you ran, everybody over there was just so thrilled about you running. I remember friends of mine says, "There's a young man you need to meet." Called you young man. You ain't so young now. You got 27-year-old children.
That's right.
I didn't know how.
26.
Okay.
Don't age me quite yet.
Anyway, but I said, everybody said, "Boy, he's going to be a superstar," and you have been. But back to what I was talking about is that was 3 terms ago. Now you'll run again this time, won't you?
Yes, sir.
Good.
I'll
For your fourth term.
be up for election, not this year, but next. And also, I meant to tell you, I also serve on the Legislative Council. I was elected to that, and feel really honored to serve on that.
I really think Ledbetter's doing a great job.
Yes, Speaker Ledbetter's done an amazing job, and really have appreciated his support in things that I've done. He's been a very good speaker.
David, you know, he and Livingston have a breakfast up there at Henniger, and it's become the go-to event for everybody running for statewide office. I went to the first one. You know who went with me to that thing?
Who?
David Wheeler.
Oh,
Wheeler and I were old friends, and you know, for years. And then he came to the house from Vestavia.
Sure.
And he and Ledbetter knew we were friends. He says, "Will you come to my little breakfast me and Livingston gonna have?" I went the first 1 or 2, but I'm not keen, since I'm not running for office or anything, and getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and driving to Henniger to go to a 7:30 breakfast. You know, now if I was running for office or something, I might do it, but I ain't. You know, on the 4th of July. You know, but he has convinced me to go this year. He's telling me that there's going to be 500 people, 50 statewide candidates. There's a parade. 4th of July. You ought to ride with me to that thing to say you went. You know, you got to get up early. I'll drive if you go. I'm going.
Okay.
On this 4th of July. So it has become, there used to be all kind of big events that statewide candidates would go to. There was Mule Day in Haleyville. There was a Terry Fan reunion in Moulton. The Henniger 4th of July breakfast for Ledbetter and Livingston is now the go-to event.
Wow.
It's held at the Henniger City Park. They're going to feed 500 or 600 people for breakfast. Every statewide candidate will be there.
I'll be.
If you're running for statewide office, you will be at Ledbetter's event. I
have never attended.
You heard about it, though, hadn't you?
Yeah, I have. I'm usually out of town July 4th with family.
Yeah.
But if I'm in town, we'll go.
If you decide to run for statewide office, you will go.
That's right. That's right.
You'll be up there for that thing. Which brings me to this point. I wanted to have you on the show because the highest profile bill in the legislature this year, we're in the middle of it, we're in the waning days of the legislative session, the 2025 legislative session, has been the bill for Alpha's health insurance plan, which they've been trying to build and do for 2 years. And I was going to ask you, but I realized once I saw you in action why they had you sponsoring that bill. I said, well, why have they got all these rural legislators and they got Faulkner handling the bill? Well, it's because you're a lawyer, you know what you're talking about. You know, a lot of these rural legislators, they may not know what they're talking about. Well, they may know they're for it,
sure,
but they may not know why. You know,
well, I don't think it's, I certainly don't claim to know everything, and I didn't know near as much as about health insurance, but I've learned a lot. And that's the great thing about the legislature. If you want to learn, you come here because you'll learn about everything. And so I have learned a lot about health insurance, and I still have more to learn.
Well, take me back from the beginning of this thing and tell me the incubation of it, why Alpha did this, why they want the health insurance plan, which looks like it's going to pass. You've passed it out of the House. It's probably going to pass the Senate. The votes are there, I understand. and probably pass this week maybe. But having said that, I wrote a column favorable about it, and I think y'all have used it. They have used it in some of their promotions, because I think it's only fair that Alpha have a health insurance plan. They want to have a health insurance plan to help farmers save money. So I was very much for it, wrote a very positive thing. But when they used that, I didn't know as much about it as I do now from following you. I just thought it was a fair thing that, somebody shouldn't stop the farmers from having a health insurance plan if they want to.
Sure.
But when I showed that column to Jimmy Parnell, he almost started crying. He said, Steve, I want to tell you something. He says, this issue is as important to our young farmers as property tax was when you were in the legislature. When I was in the legislature, Alpha's cardinal thing was, don't ever vote to raise property taxes.
Right. Right.
And that's still probably a pretty important thing for Alpha, because
Sure.
their land's going to be their stock in trade. But he said our young farmers are hurting by the premium. So I preface that by, bring me in. Did you start? When did it start? It was on last year, but did you do it last year?
No. I think they had dropped it perhaps in the Senate last year. I don't even know that a bill was dropped in the House last year. And as you know, Arthur Orr is the Senate sponsor.
He's a Senate sponsor.
He's a Senate sponsor, and so he had dropped a bill right when we started session. But the work on this, and my knowledge of it, really came back at the beginning of the fall, and maybe even the touch of into last summer. When the farmers had approached me about this, and
they came to you and said, because you were a lawyer, or what?
Well, no, they were going out speaking to all members of the legislature, but in particular, they talked to me about carrying the bill, and I told them I had to get more educated on it, and so we did that. But the question, Steve, you've asked is why, and the reason is healthcare cost. The farmers have really been. We've got most of our family farms, as you know, in the state of Alabama are family owned.
Right.
95% of them.
And generational too.
Yes. So you have small business owners, if you will, farmers, that the cost of health insurance it's sometimes $2,000, $2,500. It's more than mortgage payments for them.
That's a family plan.
Family plan, and for a month. So, that's a huge take out of their income.
It's not tax deductible either, is it?
Well, no. And so you've got a situation where they don't qualify. Many of these farmers, they don't qualify for federal subsidies. So they're not getting a subsidy on their insurance through the ACA. They make too much to qualify. So they're in what I've referred to as a coverage gap. And so they're in that coverage gap. So this is really important for farmers. And that's why it's so big to the Farmers Federation. I mean, these are people, as Katie Britt was with us today.
Right.
And she was talking about how the farmers are really hurting in this country, how their incomes have been capped on what they're able to make. And then you add in the prices that have gone up on cotton and soybeans, and to do that, to make that happen. So you've got rising costs, and our farmers are in a real pinch. Healthcare costs can be one of the biggest costs they have. And so how do they look at reducing that? Well, look, I'd love to give Alpha all the credit and say they came up with this visionary idea, but they didn't. Tennessee and 9 other states, 10 states total, have already got a Farm Bureau health plan.
Tennessee had theirs for a while, hadn't it?
Since 1947.
That long ago, they had their own health plan.
Had their own health plan for their members.
Uh-huh.
And so when I found out that 10 other states have already done this, and you look at what agriculture and forestry means to the state of Alabama, I mean, why wouldn't we look at this? I mean, we know the impact in our state, billion-dollar impact of farming and forestry in our state. So if 10 other states have already done this and offered this as a way for their members to save on health care costs, why wouldn't we let our Farmers Federation do it? So to me, it's just, at the end of the day, it's pretty simple as that. I mean, that's the problem, and that's the reason they need it. 10 other states have done it, and 5 states are considering it right now, including Alabama.
And we're probably got one of the strongest farmers federations in the country, politically speaking and otherwise. And I doubt very seriously if any other state has as profitable or powerful a car and house insurance company, a property and casualty company. Tennessee doesn't have the kind of penetration that Alpha Property and Casualty Company does in Tennessee, I don't think.
You may be right about that. I do know that their Farmers Federation, their Farm Bureau, has more members.
It does?
It does. It has more members. And of course, Tennessee's a bigger state. I mean, there's 7.2 million people, and we're about 5.2. So they've got about 2 million more people. But certainly, I would agree with you that our Farmers Federation is strong, and they're in all 67 counties.
Right.
And that's really that's the thing about this. I think people sometimes miss what the Farmers Federation is trying to do here. They're going to have oversight. This is going to be a plan that is governed by the members, that's offered to their members, and it's run by their members. So we're talking about a plan that, and you've got farmers in all 67 counties. So you've got offices of the Farmers Federation in all 67 counties. You already have a network, a great network of licensed insurance agents by the Department of Insurance that are going to sell this product. And so I think it can be a really attractive thing. Now, let me say this, Steve. It is not going to change. This is not the fix-all for health care. It's not going to be in Alabama. This is an option. It is an option for some people. It's not going to fix health care, and some people this is not going to be an option for. But it is an option for people that's been tried and proven in these other states. For example, Tennessee, they have a 98% retention rate. So it's working well. People are staying with it. They have very few, they have help when people make health care claims, when you need health coverage, and you go and you get from a medical provider, but they have very few complaints. Very few complaints, heavy retention rate. They accept they're on an 85% acceptance rate of the people that apply. But, I'm not going to, quite simply, it's not a health care fix. And it's not going to be a health care fix for every farmer. It's not going to be a health care fix for the state of Alabama. But it is offering an option, a tried and proven option that's worked in other states for some people.
David, one of the things that the opposition has come from Blue Cross Blue Shield. And one of the things they keep alluding to is that the Tennessee company is going to have some involvement. What is that? What are they talking about? Are they going to be the underwriters for it, or what are they?
Sure.
How's that working?
So we have, as I said, there's 10 states that have this in place. Of those 10 states, 7 of them use the Tennessee Farm Bureau.
Okay, so Tennessee was the first one. They got a great model. Everybody's using them.
Well, 7 of the states are using Tennessee Farm Bureau. Alabama will be and will use the Tennessee Farm Bureau. 3 states of the 10 use Blue Cross Blue Shield. So, it's just Blue Cross Blue Shield administers 3 of the plans. Instead of the Tennessee Farm Bureau, and Tennessee Farm Bureau does 7 of the plans.
So the plan, if a person comes in and buys the Alabama plan, the paper will be on Tennessee Farm Bureau's insurance company?
Well, no. So it'll be Alpha Health, and the product will be sold by Alpha Health. It'll be sold right here by the licensed insurance agents in the state of Alabama who are with Alpha. So that's who will sell the product. Tennessee Farm Bureau will serve as the underwriter.
Okay.
And then the network, the health network, will be United Healthcare's network.
Okay.
So
that really is better for the insureds, because the bigger the volume of people in the thing, the better it's served.
Well,
you see what
yes, sure.
Underwriting wise, if a farmer from Randolph County comes in and said, I want to buy the Alpha health insurance plan, it's much cheaper than what I've got with Blue Cross Blue Shield, the actual underwriting and the policy will be United Healthcare through Tennessee's underwriting.
Well, it will, let me say this, it'll definitely be Alpha Health, and the underwriter will be Tennessee Farm Bureau. The network, the provider is United Healthcare. But so Tennessee, the reason I see an advantage to that is Tennessee's been doing this.
The size too.
Right.
The bigger the pool, the better you got, the better your resources.
Been doing it since 1947.
Well, plus if you got 7 other states, David, I can tell you from having an insurance background, that if you get 7 states, the bigger the pool, the better your experience is. The more experience you have, if you just took the Alabama people and they were by themselves, they really don't know what they're getting. But you get a big pool with 7 other states, and United Healthcare knows what they're doing, so they'll set the rate then for Alabama people.
Well, I really think it's going to be the Tennessee Farm Bureau will be handling, doing the underwriting. But your face, the people selling the product, the people that you can, your agent, that's going to be Alpha Health.
I knew that. Yeah, I know that part. But what I'm saying is, that's why I was kind of curious why you and Alpha were opposed to the Alabama Insurance Department monitoring. But this is not Alabama. They already monitor United Healthcare. They already know that there's not going to be a problem with actuarially or what's the capitalization? The capitalization, that's why the insurance departments are involved, is you capitalize. But you're getting in a group with 7 other states when you do this. It's not like Alpha's going out here and recreating the wheel. We're going to start as a health insurance company. And so, yeah, if that was the case, I can see there possibly a need for an underwriting or the state, somebody regulate, but somebody's already regulating United Healthcare and Tennessee Farm Bureau.
That's right, and we have put in a lot of oversight in this bill. It's a self-funded plan, so let's remember that Alpha Health is not receiving any money from the federal government. There's going to be no subsidies. So this is, it's their self-funded plan.
Well, Tennessee's not either, though.
They do not either, and neither any of the 10 states that already have this. There's no money coming from the federal government. There's no subsidies. They're assuming all the risk. So the risk is all on Alpha Health. Now, they've got the backing of Tennessee Farm Bureau here in the beginning, which I think is great to help them because Tennessee Farm Bureau's been doing this. So I think that's great. But we put in just to, we've talked with people. We've listened to them. What were your concerns? What do you feel about? So we put a lot of things in this bill. We made 18 amendments that we added to this bill.
One of them was good to make sure you can't cancel people too.
Well, and that was always the case, Steve. It was always the case, but people said put it in the law. So we've done that.
Yeah.
We put that provision in the law. Now, let me tell you, no other state of the 10 states that have this, none of them had put that in their bill.
Because it's not necessary, really. You can't cancel somebody because
they've got contracts. So all these plans, you will be, if you're a Farmer Federation member and you apply and get covered, then yes, you're going to be covered for life as long as you pay your premiums and don't commit fraud. You'll be covered for life once you're covered. So but that was always the plan. That's what the other 10 states do right now. And Alpha Health was never going to change that, but we put it in the law. People kept saying, well, put it in the law, put it in the law. So now we put it in the law. We put in a lot of oversight. We're filing an actuarial report with the Department of Insurance to show that we have the reserves, and we have an actuarial opinion being submitted. We have a complaint process. We have an ombudsman that will be appointed to work with the Department of Insurance for any complaints that they were to receive. As I mentioned to you, though, Steve, we see in other states there's not a lot of complaints. People are happy with this. People that are using this are happy with it. But we put in that oversight. We put in the requirement for reinsurance. We put that in. This bill, with these 18 amendments that we have put on, is the most comprehensive Farm Bureau plan in the country by a long shot. Now, I don't think we've hurt the bill, but to anyone out there, take a look at these other states and what they have in their law compared to what we have. Ours is the most comprehensive, has the most oversight, most protections for consumers than any plan in the country by a long shot.
Well, I can tell you it's been a really important issue for the Alabama farmers. It's like that day I went and visited with Jimmy Parnell. He's the president of Alpha. He said, this is by far our most important thing that we can do for our farmers. And I've talked to a lot of them around the state, and they're just real proud this thing's moving like it is.
Well, you heard them speak like we had a House committee.
I was there, yeah.
Yeah, last week, and we had a lot of farmers in the audience, and 3 were allowed to speak. They gave 3 people the chance to speak. Today, the bill was up in the Senate committee, and again, farmers packed the room and sat next to them.
Were you the one doing it, or was Orr doing it?
No, I spoke in the Senate committee today. I think Senator Orr was detained elsewhere, and so I actually, we had a public hearing on the bill. We did not vote on the bill in the Senate. It'll be voted on in committee in the Senate next week.
Okay.
I believe on Tuesday of next week.
Well, you cutting it kind of close, because the session ain't got about 5 or 6 days left, has it? After this week?
That's about right. About 8 days, I think.
Yeah, 8 days left.
Yes,
Well,
sir.
David, I hate to say our time's up. You've done a good job of covering this thing. It's been one of the biggest issues of the session, and we knew it was going to be going in. But you've done a good job handling it, and I think Alpha deserves to have their own health insurance, and they're going to get to do it. Folks, our guest tonight has been Representative David Faulkner, who is one of the leaders in the House of Representatives and who has been a sponsor of the Alpha health insurance bill this year. And we thank him for taking time out of his busy schedule. He's right in the middle of this bill, right in the middle of this session, for coming down here to our studio and doing this TV show. And we thank you viewers for watching. Hope you tune in again next week for This Week in Alabama Politics. Thank y'all.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Thank you, David.
This has been Alabama Politics with Steve Flowers, a production of Troy University Television. Opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of Troy University, its administration, faculty, staff, or students.